Hello, my name is Michael Nunneley, and welcome to another episode of the Gospel of Comics. Today I want to talk a little bit more about ways to entice others into reading, or I guess really just selling the different types of comic formats that there are. Um, for instance, there are multiple formats you can get comics in now. There are digital formats, like if somebody doesn't want, okay, I'll read comics, but I don't want to have a whole room of my house dedicated to storing comics. Well, digital comics are the perfect medium for them. And they can read them anywhere. They can read them on their tablet, they can read them on their phone, they can read them on their computer while they're camping, anything. As long as they got their phone, shabam, they got their comics. That's a great way to sell to particularly this current generation. Those from my generation and before, we're used to reading, regular solid books and stuff. And while we read digital stuff, it's not what we think of first. However, it's a little different with the younger generation. They're going to want something that they can read on their tablet and stuff, and that's where you get digital comics from. Tell them about Comixology and Comic Central and all the other different digital mediums, Draw Me and Comics and whatnot. That's the first very accessible medium. But if you're like me and in my generation, you still want that. There's just something about that tactile feel of a comic, and I wanted to talk a bit about how to share or sell maybe the idea of getting into a comic. Now, first, there's always the individual issue format like this. Okay, you got this is just a little mini sample version I got from the printer, but same idea. It's just a comic, right? But I like to describe it like this. If you're reading a book, right? A book is broken up into a series of chapters, right? To tell the whole story. Now, a comic is kind of like a chapter in that story. You're only going to get part of it, right? You're even going to get, especially if you're reading a number one, you're going to get elements that are just actually being set up and probably not going to be tackled right away. So typically, I will usually only recommend individual issues for those who are potentially interested in maybe collecting them or something like that. When we're talking about readers, I typically recommend trades like this, trade paperbacks. Now, the reason I recommend these is because with when you're talking about the individual issues, right? You're getting a chapter, but when you buy a trade, you actually get the story. You know what I mean? Like, you get the story arc that the author was intending throughout the spread of the 4 to 7, sometimes 8 issues or whatever they have in a trade. Like what Terry Mayo did here with Wicked Righteous. He combined all of his individual issues into a trade, and that is, I think, the best way to recommend them, because this way they're not. It's not something that necessarily leaves them with more questions than they have answers. You know what I mean? Like, if I was a new reader, I'd want the whole story and not just a little part of it to entice me. I'd want to know the whole thing, or I wouldn't want to waste my time with it. I'd have to know it was accessible like that, and that's where trades come in. But sometimes story arcs are huge, and very huge. And in those cases, I recommend going with the Omnibus type books. They're usually, especially when you get it from somebody awesome like DC. I'm a DC fanboy, I'll admit it. But for instance, this one, the Dark Side Saga from Justice League. Now this covers a whole lot of stories and a whole lot of little mini series one shots and stuff like that to tell the whole thing. And so it's awesome to get it in this huge format, right, where you got you still got the same artwork, but it's blown up, right? So it's really big. It's like the splash pages look more awesome, right? The panels are more opened up, so even if there's tiny writing, it's a lot easier to see. The pictures are more exposed. The artwork is more on display in these bigger ones, and plus you get the whole story, and that's really the big selling point in trying to get somebody to read it. You want them to be able to get a good sense of what's going on, not a taste. You want them to, get a mouthful. We're not talking about like a squirt of whipped cream in the mouth. We're talking about put that whipped cream on some apple pie and with a side of vanilla and serve it on up, kind of thing. You want them to get them immersed in the experience, not just part of a story. I find that makes it a lot easier to get into, and you'll be surprised what they pick up on. Like, for instance, I started a guy reading the Batman Court of the Owls trilogy, and while reading the Night of the Owls, the second book, he actually fell in love with Jason Todd, Red Hood and the Outlaws. You know what I mean? Like it's a little side story of what's going on in the main thing with the Owls and Batman, and the book ended up making him a huge Red Hood fan. So you never really know what someone's going to pick up, but it is better that they get the whole thing and not just part of it. If they feel like, okay, so I got to spend $5 on this thing and then $5 on another, and I got to spend $40-50 before I get the whole story, that's just crappy. Let them know about trades and stuff. Let them know that there are cheaper, better ways to do it. You get it in the whole thing. And plus, in trades, no ads. No ads in the middle of your reading. No pages where you're in the middle of, oh my God, what is Thor going to do next? He's going to sell you glasses if you just send them $7.99. None of that crap. Just a solid book. So anyway, I hope that helped you out as far as ways to get other people interested or willing to try reading comics. And next week we're going to go a bit more into the business side of it and talk about ways that we can utilize synergy and teamwork and stuff to work together, build up the whole industry. So thanks for watching. My name is Michael Nunneley. Live long and prosper, guys. IDIC.